Alright, let's be real. The motorcycle world has its fair share of dumb trends. You know what I'm talking about. Those things riders do because they think it looks cool, or because some influencer on Instagram told them it's the next big thing. But when you've been riding for as long as I have, you see right through that nonsense. Today I'm calling out those ridiculous biker trends that need to die. Like right now. If you're doing any of these, it's time for a reality check. And if you're not, sit back, relax, and enjoy watching me roast some of the silliest habits out there. Let's get started. Number 1. Wearing gear that's all about fashion, not function. Look, I get it. We all want to look good on our bikes. But there's a line between style and stupidity, and some folks are way past it. I'm talking about people riding in thin leather jackets that wouldn't stop a mosquito, designer jeans instead of real riding pants, and sneakers instead of proper boots. The worst part? These riders think they're making some bold fashion statement, but all they're really doing is gambling with their skin. I've seen guys laid out on the pavement wishing they'd worn something protective instead of their cool ripped jeans. You know what's actually cool? Still having your skin attached to your body after a crash. There are plenty of brands making gear that looks good and works. You don't need to dress like a stunt double from Fast and Furious to turn heads. So, if you're out there thinking that a pair of Converse and a flannel shirt count as biker gear, do yourself a favor. Invest in real protective gear. You'll look better than you would in a hospital gown. I promise. Number 2. Revving your bike at every stoplight like a show-off. We've all seen this guy, the one who pulls up to a red light and starts revving his engine like he's waiting for a drag race that's never gonna happen. What is it about stoplights that turns some riders into wannabe racers? Now don't get me wrong, I love a good exhaust note as much as the next guy, but revving your engine to the moon when you're just sitting in traffic? That's not cool. It's just annoying, and it makes all of us look bad. And let's be real, nobody's impressed. The folks are in their cars just rolling their eyes, pedestrians are shaking their heads, and the other bikers are thinking, what a clown. It's like yelling in a library. You're not proving anything except that you don't know when to shut up. If you want to show off your bike, do it on the open road, not while sitting at a stoplight next to a minivan. And if your bike sounds great, trust me, people will notice without you having to twist the throttle like a maniac. Number 3. Wearing cuts and patches you didn't earn. Alright, this one might ruffle some feathers, but it needs to be said. Stop wearing club patches and cuts you didn't earn. You wouldn't wear military medals if you didn't serve, right? So why are people slapping on fake MC patches to look tough? Motorcycle clubs take their cuts seriously. It's not just about fashion. It's about brotherhood, loyalty, and respect. So when some random guy buys a knockoff patch on eBay and stitches it onto his vest for weekend rides, he's making himself a target, and not in a good way. I've seen more than one poser get called out in public for wearing colors they had no business wearing. And trust me, that's not a fun conversation to have. If you're not part of a club, that's totally fine. You don't need a patch to be a rider. Be yourself, ride your ride, and if you want to join a real club, earn it the right way. But don't think slapping on a fake set of colors makes you look cool. It makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. Number 4. Riding in big groups like a rolling circus. Look, I love a good group ride. There's nothing like cruising with your buddies on a nice day. But some people treat group rides like an excuse to show off every dumb riding habit they've got. Swerving back and forth in the lane, tailgating, trying to out-rev each other. It turns into a traveling circus instead of a serious ride. Here's the thing, riding in a group requires discipline. You need to hold your line, keep a safe distance, and watch out for each other. But when people start turning it into a stunt show, that's when accidents happen. I've been on rides where some fool in the middle of the pack decides to stand on his seat or pop a wheelie, and suddenly, half the group is slamming on the brakes to avoid a pileup. It's not funny, it's not cool, and it puts everyone at risk. So if you're gonna ride in a group, take it seriously. Show some respect to the road, the other riders, and yourself. You're not in a YouTube stunt video. You're on real roads with real consequences. Number 5. Putting way too many stickers and decals on your bike. Look, I'm all for customizing your ride. Make it your own, show some personality. But some folks take it way too far, turning a perfectly good motorcycle into a rolling billboard. Covered head to toe in stickers, brand names, fake racing numbers, badass biker slogans, until you can't even see the paint anymore. You know what that says to me? It says you're trying too hard. A bike should speak for itself. A couple of tasteful decals for sure, but when your fairing starts looking like a teenager's laptop, you've crossed the line. And don't get me started on the fake performance brand stickers. Slapping an Öhlins or a Brembo sticker on a bike that doesn't have Öhlins forks or Brembo bikes. Come on, man, who you fooling? Any rider worth their salt will spot that nonsense in a heartbeat. Want to customize your bike? Do it right. Real upgrades, real style. Not a sticker collection gone wild. Because at the end of the day, a great bike doesn't need a bunch of decals to get attention. It gets noticed because it's clean, well kept, rides like a dream. Number 6. Starting a bike and immediately revving it to the moon. Nothing screams rookie louder than someone firing up their bike and immediately twisting the throttle like they're on the starting line at a drag strip. You know the type. Key turns, engine fires up, and vroom vroom like they're waking the dead. Here's the reality. Revving a cold engine is one of the fastest ways to shorten its life. Your oil hasn't even made it to all the critical components yet, and already you're asking it to scream. That's like rolling out of the bed and sprinting a marathon before you had your coffee. But of course, some riders think this makes them look tough, like revving their engine says, "Look at me, I'm a real biker." No, what it actually says is, I don't know how to treat my machine, and I'm probably paying for repairs soon. A good rider knows you let the bike settle for a minute, let the oil circulate, and then you ride off gently. Revving it to redline in the first 30 seconds is just a sign of ignorance. If you love your bike and your wallet, don't do it. Number 7. Acting like a biker only on social media. Here's a trend that's getting worse with every new riding season. The Instagram biker. You know exactly who I'm talking about. They'll post a million photos of them standing next to their bike, but when it comes to actual riding, they're nowhere to be found. They've got the leather jacket, the perfectly staged helmet shot, maybe even a slow-motion video walking toward the bike like they're in a music video. But you'll never see them on a real ride, in real traffic, or out on a twisty road. Why? Because for them, the bike is just a prop, not a passion. Look, there's nothing wrong with sharing your love for motorcycles online, but if your entire biker identity lives on Instagram and you don't actually ride the thing, you're missing the whole point. Bikes are meant to be ridden, not posed with. You're not impressing real riders with your selfies. If you want to be part of the community, get out there and ride. Put some real miles on that bike. Get some dirt on your boots. And then take a picture if you want. Number 8. Buying a crazy loud exhaust and then complaining about it? Now here's a trend that cracks me up. A guy spends a fortune on the loudest exhaust he can find and then 2 weeks later is complaining about headaches and tickets. Like, what'd you think was going to happen? Don't get me wrong, I love a bike that sounds mean. A good exhaust note is music to a rider's ears. But when you throw on some straight pipe madness that sets off every car alarm on the block, you've gone from cool to annoying. And the worst part is, half the time these riders think it makes them safer. Like, if everyone hears them coming, they won't get hit. Then, after all that, they'll start whining. Man, this thing's way too loud. My neighbors hate me and I got a ticket last weekend. Well, no kidding. Maybe you don't turn your bike into a rolling explosion next time. If you want a nice exhaust, fine. But pick something with a good sound. Not something that makes people cover their ears and call the cops. Number 9. Trying to look like a racer on the wrong bike. Alright, this one gets me every time. You've got guys on big, heavy cruisers or low-slung choppers trying to take corners like they're on a MotoGP circuit. Dragging floorboards, wobbling through turns, leaning like they're Marc Marquez on a 900-pound bike. Here's the thing. Every bike has its purpose. Sport bikes are built to corner fast. Cruisers, not so much. You don't buy a big cruiser because you want to set lap record. You buy it because you want to cruise in style and comfort. But some folks think leaning as far as they can go makes them look like pros. Instead, they end up scraping metal, almost losing balance, and looking ridiculous. I've seen guys nearly wipe out trying to carve corners on bikes that are made to roll smooth and steady. Want to ride like a racer? Get a bike built for it. Want to ride a cruiser? Enjoy the ride for what it is. Comfortable, laid back, and smooth. There's no shame in riding within the limits of your machine. But trying to pretend you're Valentino Rossi on a Road King? That's just asking for trouble and bruised ego. Number 10. Parking like an absolute jerk. Let's talk about one that drives every rider nuts. The biker who parks like they own the planet. You know the type. Takes up 2 car spaces, parks sideways across a whole motorcycle row, or wedges their bike into a tiny spot where nobody else can get out. Look, I get that bikes are smaller than cars, and yes, we can fit in tight spaces. But if you park like a fool, all you're doing is giving bikers a bad name. And you're making life harder for the rest of us who need a place to park without playing Tetris with someone else's handlebar. I've seen guys pull into a spot, park across the line, and stroll away like they just solved world hunger. Meanwhile, there's 3 other riders circling the lot looking for a spot because Mr. Cool parked his bike like a Lamborghini. Respect other riders. If there's room for 3 bikes, don't take up all of it with yours. And if you're in a shared lot, don't block access to cars either. A little consideration goes a long way, and trust me, nobody's impressed by the guy who parks like he owns the block. Number 11. Wearing the same dirty, smelly gear for years. Now this one's as much about hygiene as it is about being a smart rider. The guy who's had the same jacket, gloves, and helmet liner for years without ever washing them. You know what I'm talking about. The funk that hits you like a brick wall when they take off their helmet. Look, I get that good gear isn't cheap, and if you've got a favorite jacket, hey, more power to you. But there's no excuse for not washing your gloves or at least freshening up your helmet liner. Aside from smelling like a high school locker room, that gear gets nasty. Sweat, dirt, rain, road grime, it all builds up. And over time, the funk can break down the materials in your gear, making it less protective. Plus, let's be real. Nobody wants to ride next to the guy who smells like a swamp. You want to make friends on a group ride? Try not smelling like a wet dog. Most helmets have removable liners you can wash. And a jacket? Give it a clean every once in a while, man. You'll feel better, ride more comfortably, and you won't have people avoiding you at every gas stop. Number 12. Buying the biggest, baddest bike just to sit in a garage. Here's one that really grinds my gears. The guy who drops 30 grand on a top-of-the-line Harley or fully loaded BMW GS only to ride it twice a year and let it sit the rest of it. Look, I'm all for buying your dream bike. You earn that money. Spend it how you want. But bikes are meant to be ridden, not polished every Sunday like a trophy. If you wanted something to stare at in the garage, you should have bought a painting. What's worse is when they talk like they're seasoned riders, but when you ask how many miles they've put on their bike, it's still under 1,000, and they've had it for 3 years. Listen, real bikers ride. Rain, sun, long trips, quick runs to the store, it doesn't matter. A bike should have bugs on the windshield, a little dirt on the pipes, and stories to tell. If you're dropping cash on a bike just to let it collect dust, you're missing the whole point. Bikes aren't museum pieces. They're freedom machines. So turn the key, hit the road, and stop treating your motorcycle like a porcelain doll. Number 13. Pretending you're in a movie, riding one-handed for no reason. We've all seen this guy. Riding down the road, left hand hanging loose, maybe checking his phone, drinking a coffee, or worse, filming himself. Look, I get that sometimes you got to adjust a mirror or scratch your nose, but riding one-handed like you're starring in a movie? Come on, man. It's not cool, it's not relaxed, and it sure as hell isn't safe. You want to know what's cool? Keeping both hands on the bars and being ready for whatever happens, because trust me, Stuff happens fast when you're on two wheels. I've seen guys eat pavement because they were too busy waving to someone, texting, or just trying to look like a badass. Spoiler alert, hitting the asphalt with your face doesn't look badass at all. And don't even get me started on people trying to take selfies while riding. If you need to prove to the internet that you ride, maybe you should spend more time riding and less time filming. So unless you're signaling or adjusting something quick, keep both hands where they belong, on the bars. Number 14. Acting like you're in a race in a parking lot. Here's another one that makes me shake my head. People who treat parking lots like racetracks. You know what I'm talking about. Revving hard, flying through narrow roads, swerving between parked cars like they're chasing a trophy. First off, nobody's impressed. In fact, most folks are thinking, wow, that guy's a danger to everyone here. Parking lots are full of unpredictable stuff. Cars backing out, pedestrians, shopping carts, and one wrong move can land you in a world of hurt. I've seen riders dump their bikes doing this nonsense, and worse, I've seen them nearly hit people. And all for what? To look fast for 5 seconds? If you want to race, go to a track. Also, a lot of riders forget that low-speed control in a parking lot is a real skill. And if you can't handle your bike at 5 miles an hour, you shouldn't be trying to hit 30 weaving around parked cars. So yeah, save racing for the places that are meant for it. In a parking lot, act like you've got some sense. Trust me, you'll look like a way better rider if you're smooth and in control than if you're doing donuts around a shopping cart. At the end of the day, riding is about respect for the road, for your bike, and for other riders. These trends, they're not about riding. They're about trying to look cool while doing dumb stuff that gives real riders a bad name. So now I want to hear from you. What's a biker trend that absolutely drives you nuts? What's something you see out on the road that makes you shake your head? Drop it in the comments. I want to know. And as always, if you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe for more no-nonsense riding wisdom, and until next time, ride safe, ride smart, and keep the rubber side down.